Welcome back. You're watching We Mean Business, and another big issue to talk about. These are difficult times for industry, and in these difficult times are the top management of India's companies overpaid. That's what a study seems to indicate. Study from Thornton seems to indicate. And to discuss the compensation for the top management of India's companies, I have a select panel joining me. Anandorup, Ghose, Head of Executive Compensation and Governance Practice for South Asia at Aon Hewitt. Shiv, Managing Director at ABC Consultants, joining me here in Delhi. And Sai Vekateshwaran, Partner and Practice Leader at Financial Reporting Advisory Services, Thornton, India. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. First question to you there, Mr. Venkateshwaran. What does the study say? Is our Indian top management and Indian CEOs paid way beyond what global peers earn?
The response is not actually saying that Indian CEOs earn too much, but I think more respondents felt that Indian CEOs are paid too much. But if I try and read into this a little more, I think it's just a reflection of the growing awareness among shareholders and of that linkage or the lack thereof between performance that's being delivered versus the compensation of senior management. And I think what this is in effect calling for is, I think, greater transparency into how shareholder money is being spent. So that's I think the kind of in a way the gist of what this survey study seems to kind of indicate.
Mr. Ghose, your understanding at Aon Hewitt, you also carry out your survey of Indian CEOs. Is there now any sense of parity with, if you look at the purchasing power parity part of it and factor that in and look at the compensation for India's top management, is there that's compensation looking close to what the global standards are?
Yeah, and that's something that we've been saying for some time now, that if you look at on a purchasing power parity basis, Indian CEOs are almost at global levels. And when I say global levels, it usually ends up being North America, but I think where we are right now is that we are fairly close to what European CEO levels are. And on a fixed pay comparison basis, we'll probably be as much, or if not a little more, than North American CEOs. But the fact of the matter is that this is all a purchasing power parity computation and may not necessarily reflect the actual money an individual makes in a particular company. But yeah, there is an increasing tendency of compensation levels to be aligned towards global standards.
Mr. Agrawal, does that suggest that shareholders, I mean, the reporting for the companies also need to be that much better? If even the purchasing power parity numbers seem to indicate we are aligning to global levels, does that now make it mandatory, or make it, or should companies be more forthcoming the way they disclose the details of compensation for top management?
Absolutely. I see no reason why they shouldn't be there. And I think there are reasons behind this happening. I don't think this is irrational. I think this is, like in anything in life, it's a demand-supply issue. I mean, India has seen a huge demand thanks to the economy growing over the last 15 years, and hence suddenly there's a need for many managers. On the supply side, if you go back even 10 years ago, we really didn't have a large pool of people coming out of the so-called tier 1 institutes. So, and the people who came out in the 90s of those institutes are now in their early 40s, and hence that pool is really small. So this is really demand exceeding supply, and hence price, going up. So I don't think there's an irrationality around this, and hence I don't see any reason why companies shouldn't be more forthcoming about disclosing salary levels.
But in your understanding, Mr. Agrawal, does that actually happen? Do companies disclose? And I'm not just talking of necessarily the listed entities, even the others. Are companies even forthcoming about the way they go about compensating the top employees?
No, not always. I think there is still, it's still a little gray occasionally, especially like you said, if you go into unlisted companies, I think it's very difficult really to get into what real compensation actually means. There's fixed, there's variable, and within variable there's a bunch of things that come in. So it's still not a fully transparent system of actually knowing what compensation is.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Venkateshwaran, what does the study have to say about the role of shareholders and what say they have in terms of what the compensation for top management should have?
Sure. I think what the studies obviously saying is that I think shareholders want more involvement. Now, if you look in the Indian context, I think also on your earlier question in terms of the adequacy of disclosures, so from a certain level, I think the quantitative disclosures about the level of compensation of senior management or of directors has always been there. It's been mandated both under the Clause 49 as well as under the Companies Act. So the qualitative the quantitative disclosures are there. I think what is lacking is the qualitative disclosures into what are the key factors that help determine that level of compensation. Now, when we talk of the shareholder involvement, I think the shareholder involvement, again, I think most of these resolutions regarding director remuneration are put to vote in India. But it's the quality of the involvement that needs to go out, to go up. And I think that quality in shareholder participation can only go up at a time when I think the disclosures that go out to shareholders also, I think, significantly goes up.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.